promised, and as everybody was angry about, Wizards is officially putting the spotlight on Brawl, Legacy, and Vintage, apparently the 3 formats that they care the most about, despite what the community cares about, and they officially released a banned and restricted announcement. Not a lot of surprises here, but there's a couple. So let's start with Brawl. Drannith Magistrate is banned. I'm kind of surprised that it took them this long to figure out that that's literally just Sorcerous Spyglass on steroids. Here, let me read the card for you. Your opponent can't play their commander. So Spyglass was one of the first cards to be banned in Brawl. I think it was the second, because I think the first one was that blue guy, that control guy. But basically, abilities of the chosen card name can't be activated. So if you had a Planeswalker, or really any activated ability on your commander, they would just name it. So it made it mostly decoration. I mean, triggered abilities and like if it was a creature, literally just being a creature was just fine. It would still have like Death Touch, First Strike, Lifelink, Flying. And then we've got Drannith Magistrate, which is even further. So your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hand. So that includes the command zone, the graveyard, the library, anywhere. I think with Eldraine, you're technically casting a spell from the exile zone, so it shuts that down too. I'm actually surprised more people don't play this card. So the second card that they banned was, of course, Lurrus. Just kidding, they did not ban Lurrus from Brawl. He is still in Brawl. But they did ban Winota, Joiner of Forces, which if you just look at the card, know what it does, you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But then you think, 1 out of 60? Is that really a problem? But then the real problem is making it your commander, obviously. Because then obviously it's just an automatic card. I mean, that's actually worse than it is in Standard, because in Standard you might not draw a Winota or start the game with it. So yeah, functionally I'm not surprised at all. I think that you can get enough humans and non-humans in your deck shared to fill up, 40 plus 20 lands or whatever. So good riddance, sister, but if they're willing to get rid of you in Brawl, I have a sneaking suspicion that you're too bad for Standard as well. But as everybody suspects, they're focusing on these formats first because they want to sell Ikoria. It just went on sale, like this weekend or whatever. So they want people to build the wrong deck and then ban it like a week later. So that's nice. Thanks for that, guys, you greedy assholes. So let's move on to Legacy, where they actually did ban Lurrus. He's just too damn good. And I say that because he's in, I think, 6 or 7 different, and I mean actually different decks. I mean, in Vintage and Legacy, there's a ton of 0 drops, and there's, self-mill, and just, it is such a degenerate format that doesn't work anything like Magic was intended. I don't even consider Legacy and Vintage to be Magic the Gathering. It's a bunch of crap that was never supposed to be in a deck together, and it's just like a bunch of turn 2 combo crap, and then some of the decks go past turn 2. I know Legacy players get really touchy about people saying, it's just a turn 2 glass cannon combo format. Yes, some people don't play turn 2 decks, but some do. In fact, a lot of them do. So he just took a couple decks that already existed and made them a little bit too powerful, and then they all took over. So he's clearly the problem. It's not him and one other card that are like some big new thing. It's not like the Eldrazi where it's a whole new concept out of nowhere and the whole thing has to go. He just is too good. He's an automatic card. He's a free 8th card. Why wouldn't somebody throw him in if their deck's already close enough to go 2 or under? And then the second card that was banned in Legacy, this is a little bit of a surprise. It's Zirda. The companion that nobody plays. So this one, it is hybrid, so you get some options. It's a 3/3 for 3, so it's already pretty good. It's an elemental. Okay, you can get something going there. And abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. That's the key right there. I wasn't aware that anybody did anything with this yet, but I'm not surprised that enough people did that they're banning it. So this effect can't reduce the mana in the cost to less than 1. So you're still gonna have to pay 1 for something, but if there's like a recurring loop that you want to do or an infinite combo or something, it just got way more doable by dropping this dude in. And I'm not sure if you can combine this with like another reduction effect to make it cost 1, because you can choose the order that they're reduced in. And then the other thing is you pay 1, tap it, and target creature can't block this turn. That's pretty damn good. I doubt a lot of decks win that way, but it's nice to have. The big thing with Zirda is that each permanent in your starting deck has to have an activated ability. Every single permanent. That includes the lands. I honestly didn't think that people could play around that restriction, but it would seem that some people have. And moving on to Vintage, where the unwritten rule is we don't ban cards, we restrict them. Anything goes unless it has a rules or functional problem. So considering that definition, this is the first card to be banned from Vintage. Lurrus of the Dream Den. Vintage is like Legacy, but even more degenerate. So I'm not surprised that people did something with Lurrus that they shouldn't do. I guarantee they're getting them out without paying for them. I guarantee they're resurrecting something that costs like 0 or something. I don't know. Who knows? I did look at the decks. I don't care. I hate Vintage. If you don't like people crapping on Vintage, welcome to the Magic community. That ain't news. And second, just go put on your monocle and your top hat, get on your horse, and trot away. So other actually banned instead of restricted cards in Vintage were anything involving Ante, because they found out it has legal problems in multiple countries, and things that involve throwing or dropping cards, because that's just stupid. And Shahrazad, because starting a sub-game is not great. And then, obviously, all silver and gold-bordered cards, because they were never intended to be real cards for real formats. As if anybody considers Vintage a real format. So Lurrus is the first card in the history of Magic out of about 27 or 28,000 unique cards that have been printed to be banned in Vintage for being too good. Black Lotus and the rest of the Power 9 are still legal, well, restricted, but still you can play one of them in Vintage. Now, would they have restricted Lurrus? Probably, except that you only need one because of the dumb way that Mark Rosewater designed it. And he absolutely should be fired for it. And you might say, oh, but it was banned because of how it plays. It's the same as the other bannings. They just didn't like how it plays. Well, they left the other 9 companions legal, so they didn't ban Companion like they banned Ante. Oh, and I forgot, conspiracy cards that use like the conspiracy mechanic or whatever from Conspiracy 2. Those are gone too. Those are banned just simply because of the mechanic. But yeah, this one, no, it is banned because it's a companion, but companion as a whole wasn't banned. So I'm gonna call this just the card was too good. So they have an explanation themselves. I'm gonna read it real quick to get their side of the story, even though this is pretty transparent. We got Vintage, Legacy, Brawl. Oh, and then they have a heading called Other Formats. Well, they do know they exist. It's a miracle. So they say, Vintage, in the weeks following the release of Ikoria Lair of Behemoths on Magic Online, we've observed the rise in popularity and win rate of Vintage decks using Lurrus of the Dream Den. As a companion, because of the nature of Vintage's wide card pool and powerful restricted cards, the deck building cost imposed by Lurrus is less restrictive relative to the payoff of having Lurrus as a companion. That's the thing, I never thought his ability was that good, but I guess in the right deck, it's like, whoa, I can cast that straight from the graveyard? Holy crap. He's like a big old Control-Z undo button. As a result, the win rates of several archetypes using Lurrus have surpassed 55%. That is their limit, by the way, which is funny because there was one tournament where Fires of Invention hit 71%. Lurrus and Fires are going to be banned, bare minimum of the next ban announcement. So that 55% was in Magic Online League play, and collectively, decks using Lurrus are representing too large of a portion of the metagame with no indication of a shift away from this trend. Yeah, there is literally no way to stop him. You can't remove him from hand, you can't really do anything. Meddling Mage, though. But therefore, Lurrus of the Dream Den is banned in Vintage. We recognize that it's a rare occurrence to ban a card for balance reasons in Vintage. Yes, you've literally never done it. So, it's not a rare occurrence, it's actually, you've never done it. There's a difference there. So rather than restricting it, but this is a unique case of restricting Lurrus wouldn't affect its usage as a companion, blah, 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 duh, we know how math works. We can count to 1. So that's the primary motivation for making this change. Let's move on to Legacy. As in Vintage, the wide card pool of powerful low mana cost permanents in Legacy makes the power level of using Lurrus the Dream Den as a companion not commensurate to the deck building cost. Well, let me put on my second monocle. Several archetypes that were already strong, including Delver variants. God, they need to ban Delver! People have been saying this for like 7 years! I hate Delver, you hate Delver, we all hate Delver. Can we just ban Delver already? Oh my god. And Lurrus. I'm not saying Delver was the problem in this case, I'm just saying it's been a problem separately, but yeah, get rid of Lurrus. So they've incorporated the use of Lurrus as a companion when necessitating relatively few deck building changes. Collectively, Lurrus decks represent an increasingly large portion of the metagame, with several variants maintaining win rates above 55%. Once again, that is their limit, that is the benchmark they use, unless they want to mislead you. We've had them basically openly say this hit a win rate of about 60%, but, and then try and make some BS excuse. No, this is one of the primary benchmarks, so be consistent, Wizards. Anytime they violate this policy, it's because they're trying to lie to or manipulate you, like with Fires of Invention. Anyway, matchup data indicates that metagame forces alone aren't sufficient to keep this deck in check, so we are also choosing to ban Lurrus the Dream Den, or of the Dream Den, whatever, who cares where he's from. In Legacy, well, I guess Ikoria Lair of the Small Boys was just too much for Legacy and Vintage. In addition, we're seeing very high win rates among decks using Zerda the Dawnbreaker as or Dawnwaker, whatever, Zelda the Wind Waker, as a companion in combination with Grim Monolith. Oh, that's what the problem was. Okay, let's throw this one up on the screen. Grim Monolith doesn't untap during your untap step. You can tap it to generate 3, but then it takes 4 mana to untap it. So what would happen? So now it costs 2 mana to untap Grim Monolith. And then you can immediately tap it for 3. Now, why would that be a problem, you guys? I don't see the problem there. Let's see if I can get Dora the Explorer to do some quick maths and tell me why this is a problem. Oh, she said it's because that's a net 1 in an infinite loop. I guess Mark and Aaron didn't catch that one. Whoopsies. No, this is shocking to me. I mean, they saw the combo, they're like, well, that's some toxic ass cancer. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. While not widely played, Magic Online metagame data indicates that this deck would become problematic in both win rate and metagame share. Therefore, we're taking the additional step of banning Zirda in Legacy. Holy crap. So they didn't do it with Aetherworks Marvel. They did kind of do it with Hostage Taker, but in a cheaty boy way. They didn't do it with the Saheeli Cat combo. And I feel like there was 1 or 2 others that people pointed out that they didn't take action against right away in Standard. So their typical thing is, yes, clearly, clear as day, any idiot, even somebody who's been playing the game for a month could tell us that this combo is going to be a problem. But let's wait and see. Wizards, you can wait and see these nuts, okay? When the whole community is telling you that this is going to be broken, degenerate shit, it's time to get rid of it. And the time to get rid of something is before people buy it and play it and waste their money. So holy crap, they saw the writing on the wall and saw some early stats and were like, we're getting rid of it. I cannot believe this. It's an actual miracle.
He's gonna cheat and beat me, so I'm just gonna leave. It's fine, good game. Not really. You got me, asshole. You're gonna beat me. I'm not even gonna have the illusion of I'm gonna win. I'm not gonna have that.